What makes a Mercedes an AMG? Does it have to have rear-wheel drive if it has 355 horsepower? Well, that's what we're about to find out today when we take a first drive in the CLA45 AMG. We've told you before about the CLA, but we've only driven the 250. That is until now. Last week we went over to Germany to Bilster Berg, a new privateer track in the middle of the country that's built with passages to remind you of Laguna Seca, even the Nürburgring. Now the CLA45 AMG, it'll remind you a lot of the CLA250, except under the hood, it's a 355 horsepower four-cylinder. There's even an active exhaust system to make that four-cylinder sound a little bit more like a V8. The CLA45 gets the usual AMG touches outside and in, and where there's a storage bin on the 250, you'll find the AMG shifter. Now for about half the day we spent our time in the CLA45 cruising some back roads from Hanover, Germany down to Bilster Berg. And in a lot of ways, the CLA45 AMG is a better road car than the 250. The steering's now fixed ratio. The suspension has more independent links front and rear, and it has a solid subframe attached to the body in the rear. 18-inch wheels are standard, and so are uprated AMG brakes, and in general we found the ride handling combination a little bit better than in the 250. The real test is on the track, and that's why we came to learn Bilster Berg and to get in some laps before the rain. But first we played a little lead and follow with one of AMG's instructors dragging us behind in an SLS. Then it was our turn, and the first thing you discover in the CLA45 AMG is how that raucous engine note really pushes you to push the car. The CLA45 has standard all-wheel drive, and it can send up to 50% of the power to the rear wheels. And that means you can dial in a lot of traction and dial out a lot of the understeer that's present in the front-wheel drive car. That's one of the things that sets this AMG apart from the others. It's very predictable. And you can take that both ways. If you like your cars to be a little unpredictable, if you like the rear bias of some other all-wheel drive sports sedans, well, the CLA is a lot more neutral and a lot more balanced than that. And if you like that predictability, if you like being able to shave off a tenth of a second with every lap as you learn the track better and better, well, this is a great car for that. One of the things we love about the CLA45 is the fact that you can actually choose different driving modes for the transmission. There's a true manual mode that lets you select exactly which gear you'd like to be in, and it'll hold that gear up until redline, and that's the only time it'll trigger an upshift. There's a sport mode that'll speed up shifts too, and those are things that you don't get in the CLA250, even though the 7-speed dual clutch transmissions are similar. Another thing you don't get, AMG has special performance seats that are going to be available in the CLA45. They're fantastic. But that's a side note when your rearview mirror is filled with another CLA45 tailing you around this 3.4 mile long track. After 3 or 4 laps, you learn how to let the CLA45 drift through some of the easier S's at Bilster Berg. You really start to relax and let it have fun. It's a good thing these Dunlop Sport tires have a lot of life left in them, because we're going to take you out for another set of laps a little bit later in the day for some more lead and follow. Now there you start to pick up a lot of that CLA45 engine note. It's a 4-cylinder Brap. It's not a V8 Burble. We think it's almost as good. Here's one of the really entertaining sections of the track. If If you get this just right, you can let this car slide right through this series of S's, go a little wide, and tuck it back in for a hard left-hander. Now here are those cones we were talking about. Now they coned it off because they didn't want us to tackle this section too quickly right off the bat. It's a difficult off-camber downhill turn that blends into an uphill. It reminds me just of Laguna Seca. Now here you're just threading a needle through a set of S's, making sure not to hit the yellow curbs. They'll really set you off the line. And here it's flat out. Let it run up to third, fourth, before you have to hop on the brakes again and slow down for a carousel left-hander. Like the Nürburgring, Bilster Berg is set up to adapt to the natural terrain. Although some of these curves you can tell are a little bit more of a direct homage. Now while we're cooling down, we have a little bit of time to gather our thoughts and think about how the CLA45 has been today. We think it's every bit the AMG, and even if it's a different flavor of it, we think the 4-cylinder turbo is a worthy companion to the big burbling V8s. Read our first drive and follow us on social media at Motor Authority and get the full review at TCC. I'm Marty Padgett. Thanks for joining us.